Thanks for joining today. I first wanted to start with briefly introducing myself. So I'm an assistant professor with the Department of Public Administration and Sociology at the Erasmus University. I've been so since September last year, but the Erasmus University is, I'm very familiar with the place. I've studied there, public administration, and I've also done my PhD there. And my PhD topic was on industrial symbiosis, which is kind of related to what I'm talking about today, in the sense that industrial symbiosis can to some extent be understood as applying circular economy in industrial parks. I'm very broadly interested in sustainability and governance. That's super broad, but that's I guess the way it is. And I'm also very actively working on process-oriented methodology. It's not what I'm going to talk about today. What I'm going to talk about today is not so much a particular research project that I'm engaged in, but kind of a research interest that developed over time after my PhD, I would say. That's also why I put up some of my previous affiliations here. I spent some years at the Technical University of Delft and at the Sustainable Consumption Institute in Manchester. And in Delft, I was involved in a European project called GLAMOURS, which stands for Green Lifestyles, Alternative Models, and Upscaling Regional Sustainability. It was a project that focused on various things, but the part that I was most involved in focused on studying citizen-driven sustainability initiatives in various domains. So you can think about mobility, you can think about urban food initiatives, also energy initiatives. And the idea was we would look at those initiatives to see what kind of models of green lifestyles are visible in them, and if those are models that can somehow be scaled up into larger communities. And one of the kinds of initiatives that I focused on, or one of the initiatives that I focused on was the Repair Café. And that's how I got acquainted with Repair Cafés, and they have been an interest of mine ever since. And I think they are a very good example of what I refer to as a grassroots circular economy initiative. I won't discuss Repair Cafés in detail right away, because it's one of the examples I will discuss later on once I've introduced you a little bit more gently into this topic. Because I first want to say a few things about why I think circular economies from the grassroots, why that's an interesting topic. And I'm quite sure that most of you are familiar with what circular economy is, or broadly what the idea behind it is. But for just in case, for those that are not, very simply, the idea behind circular economy is that currently we live, our economies are very linearly organized. So that means that we, we subtract materials, raw resources from nature, we make things out of them, we use them, we consume them, and then after they are no longer useful, we discard them, or we discard the waste products from them. So it's really what they also refer to as a cradle to grave kind of system. And in circular economies, we try to recover as much of the material and energy from that process as possible by building in these loops, right? So that can be through repairing, that can be through reusing things, that can be through recycling things, or remanufacturing new products from existing ones. That's kind of the basic idea behind it. It's making it very simple now, but I guess that works. So on first glance, that might seem like a very, I'm not sure if that it is to everyone, but it might seem like quite a radical, innovative idea. But there are some things, I think, in various widespread visions of circular economies that are actually quite traditional. And I think this is the vision from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. This is their famous picture of the circular economy. And one thing that's quite traditional about this, and what you also see quite a lot in academic literature on circular economies, is this division of roles between business, government, and civil society, right? So the role of business is to develop circular business models, to develop circular products, circular services, what have you. Basically that we can consume and use. The role of government is to create the right policy context for that, right? A policy context that stimulates that kind of business practice. And the role for civil society is basically, well, it's very nicely summarized here. You are basically, I mean, you're talking about us here. We are basically consumers and users of those products. I think I really like this picture on the right here, right? It's really the consumer, I guess, holds the key to a circular economy. It's a very important idea, because if you don't consume circular products, then the whole idea breaks down, right? Because there needs to be a demand for this process. That's the thinking behind it, I would say. So according to this view, you know, your role is really that of a consumer / user. So I'm putting it a little bit I'm exaggerating a little bit here, but basically what you need to do is to be able to read green certificates and be able to choose the right products. That's the kind of picture that you very often find in literature on circular economy. And I have two kind of objections against that view on the role of people in circular economy. One of them is basically that it sort of puts us on a road, I think, that we're setting ourselves up for failure in a way, because I think this kind of idea often leads to the kind of policies in which we say, okay, we need to inform the consumer better. We need to make clear to them how they can, what circular products are, how they can behave in a more green way, how they can make better choices. So you will get these information campaigns and so on. And it's like we've actually, research has showed us over and over that this kind of approach doesn't really work. I'm not sure if you're, for example, familiar with the value action gap, which has shown that even if you have very green values and are very motivated to behave green, that very often it doesn't necessarily mean that you also actually act green. And I think one of the reasons underlying that is that we are quite mistaken, I think, in many cases about how behavior actually comes about, right? Because it all assumes that we make very conscious decisions about how we go about our everyday life. Well, a lot of the things that we do during the day, we don't really think about them very consciously. It's very much made up out of a lot of routines and habits that are not shaped by explicit information, but you know, that sort of we grow into. But that's a topic for another discussion. Another thing that I object against, or that I don't like about this idea, is how passive the picture is that it creates of the role of people in circular economies. We're basically we're not really citizens anymore in this picture, or it doesn't create a picture of the citizen in the circular economy. It only creates a picture of the consumer in the circular economy, and that doesn't require, you know, it's not very inspirational, I would say. And I would argue that grassroots initiatives that around circular economies provide a kind of alternative picture. So that's what I would like to talk about next. So to do that, I should first introduce some examples, I guess, of what I mean with circular economies from the grassroots. And there's two examples that I really like a lot that I've also studied. I mean, in a kind of, how do you say, modest way. So for example, the link I've put up here, and you'll receive the slides, so it will be easier to follow the link. The link I've put up here is to two reports that I wrote on a survey that I did with the Repair Café community and the precious plastic community, which I will talk about a little bit more now. So if you want more background details to what I'm discussing here, please have a look. So first, the Repair Café. So I've mentioned them before. So what is a Repair Café? A Repair Café is kind of a meeting place where you can go with your broken products and then repair them together with volunteers that actually know what they are doing. So they know how to repair stuff, and you do it together, right? So it's not like they repair it for you. They also involve you in the repair. So as you can see in the picture on the left here, you see these two tables with repair volunteers sitting on one side and people visiting on the other side, and they're having a chat, right? It's not just a technical thing, it's very much a social thing. That's also where the word café comes from. And you can actually see what's happening and learn something, basically. And these volunteers generally do this for free. And this initiative started with one Repair Café in 2009 in Amsterdam. But since then, it has grown to, I think they now have like over 2,000 Repair Cafés worldwide, mostly concentrated in Western Europe, but you'll find them across the globe. And these initiatives generally have like around 20, 30 volunteers, and they are organized once a month. And yeah, so that's basically the idea behind repair cafes. Non-precious plastic is another initiative that is a bit younger, that started, I think, first in 2013. There was a Dutch design student who came up with this idea for his graduation project. And he basically said, well, there's a lot of plastic waste around us. There doesn't seem to be kind of a commercially viable model that businesses can use to really recycle those plastics. At least it's not really happening. You know, it's too little happening in that area. So he decided, why wouldn't we just recycle plastics ourselves? So he started designing plastic recycling machines that you can build at home. I mean, relatively, I mean, that's, you know, it's easier said than done, I admit. I haven't tried myself. I'm pretty sure there's a small chance I would kill myself in the process if I would. But the idea is you can build those things at home. More importantly, he made sure that the machines can be made from parts that you can find anywhere in the world. And
Wouter,
yeah,
just to let you know, 1 minute left.
Oh, okay, that's quicker than I thought. And this initiative too has now grown to, well, their latest estimate, I think, is that there's more than 1,000 workshops across the world now. Something that only started in 2013. So what kind of different picture do these initiatives show of people, basically, in circular economies? Well, one thing is that actually these initiatives are about preserving and building skills in many ways, right? So one of the reasons that repair cafes actually exist is that the initiators of this were also worried that repairing is a skill that is basically disappearing from our society. It's also no wonder that most of the volunteers in the repair cafes are in the age category of 50 or 60. People don't really know how to repair anymore. And they are also trying to preserve these skills and distribute these skills further. There's a nice picture here of a child watching what happens, maybe learn something there. The same goes for the precious plastic, right? It's very much about doing things yourself and developing skills and finding out. I mean, a big part of their initiative is also finding out what you can actually do with plastics. So they started with very simple products like coasters, but now they're also developing designs for building materials, for example. And right, so and what is also very nice to think about this idea is that it's very much about doing those kinds of things together. So, because I'm very short on time now, let me just go to this slide. So why are these kinds of initiatives important? Well, first, because they help to maintain and they reshape and spread practices that you can say are endangered, right? So there are practices that are important. Also, if we want to play an active role in a circular economy that goes beyond consuming, there are certain things we need to be able to do that are not very common anymore, not very self-evident anymore, that we know how to do those. And in their idea of circular economies, we are not just consumers or users, but we are active participants in those circular economies, right? We're not just on the receiving end, we're actually helping to build it. What I also like about them is that they promote visions about how we live together in these future circular economies, rather than just being, again, this simple idea of the consumer. And I think most importantly for the precious plastic one, if you look at their latest iteration of the concept of precious plastic that they developed, they also very much think about how we can use this kind of initiatives to create a livelihood for people in different parts of the world. So they have this concept of developing a precious plastic workspace in every community. It's like having something like a baker in your neighborhood where people can go to bring their plastic waste and you know, where something useful is made out of them. So I should stop now. Okay, yeah, so in summary, they provide a very different vision of the place of people in circular economies. So thank you very much for your attention. I look forward to any questions or comments.